All right, everybody. This is part three out of three, the last part, where I'm going to show you some replicas. Some people don't know when I show these. These are replicas of 8mm movie box covers. And this is volume three, as you can see here. This is a collection, the Monster Box, volume three out of three. And it says One Final Jolt 25 vintage movie box covers artwork. And the movies themselves, they used to come in the 60s and 70s, I suppose, in boxes like this, a box about that size. You'd have a reel in there, 200-foot reel, and it would be a silent movie. Some of them, sometimes you get in sound. You can buy it silent or sound. Most of us younger people uh, only got the silent with subtitles on the bottom, and it would be about roughly around 10 minutes from your favorite monster pictures, science fiction films. Before we had VHS, before we had DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming. Anyway, there's the box like that, and in here are the replicas. That's all they are, replicas. Let's remember that. Cardboard copies of, ta-da, the original covers, and a lot of people might remember them. Here we go. We got here Abbott and Costello, Meet the Mummy. And I always love showing the Castle Films logo. That was my favorite company of 8mm because they had rights to the Universal monsters usually. And Republic Pictures, we have the Claw monsters. By the way, if you like this, I did two other videos on the volumes, volume 1 and volume 2. Search backwards, not so long a distance, and you'll find them recently. Then we got my personal favorite of the trilogy of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Nobody loves it, but I do. The Creature Walks Among Us, Castle Films again. Then we've got The Crimson Cult, starring Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee. And we have a Hammer film here. This was the Columbia Company. The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. There's a classic on 20th Century Fox. Probably Ken Films. The Day the Earth Stood Still. The company was Ken. This is another Ken Films. Destroy All Monsters, Toho. Japanese monster movie, Godzilla and His Pals. Now, this was an interesting one. Sometimes Castle Films did this. There's no such movie, really, with this title. You'll see what I mean. It's called Doom of Dracula. And it's got John Carradine as Dracula, and Boris Karloff is in it. Now, what is this? This was actually the earlier half, or portion, of the film House of Frankenstein. House of Frankenstein is made into two films. The beginning, they deal with Dracula. Later on, they deal with the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman. So we actually split the feature into two, and this is the Dracula portion. They made a mini feature out of it, Doom of Dracula, and it works very well as its standalone feature. Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Let's go back to Toho Giant Monsters, huh? And there we got Frankenstein Conquers the World. That's a Frankenstein monster who's a giant. Not to be confused with Boris Karloff, of course. Here we go. Back to Universal for House of Dracula. That's a very misleading cover. There are no fangs in House of Dracula, the old Universal. And John Carradine, many years later, in House of Seven Corpses. I almost said 1,000. House of Seven Corpses. 1950s fare coming up in doubles here. First we got I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. And not to be outdone, we also have I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Michael Landon. Young Michael Landon in this movie. Then we have The Incredible Melting Man. We go into the 1970s. Then we have Edgar Allan Poe's Master of Horror. This is an odd movie. It's a comedy that Lugosi did, Bela Lugosi. My Son the Vampire, which I like this movie. It's underrated. It's not a hilarious comedy. It's got British comedy in it, British humor, but I enjoy it. 1 million BC. Let's go back to The Creature from the Black Lagoon for the second film, Revenge of the Creature. Good box, good box. The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Ray Harryhausen stuff there. Let's go to Taste the Blood of Dracula. I remember when I got this. This was pretty extreme, you know, for a young person back then. Taste the Blood of Dracula, Christopher Lee and Hammer Horror. The Thing from Another World, 1950s. Trog, Joan Crawford. I think it's her last movie. Joan Crawford trying to collect some last-minute booze bucks, as I call them. Trying to pay the bills, make it a movie about a prehistoric monster. And here's the other half. This is interesting. I talked a little while ago about half of House of Frankenstein with the Doom of Dracula film. Here's a film that doesn't exist either, really. There's no such feature, called The Wolfman's Cure. And what this is early sections of the film House of Dracula. The first half of House of Dracula, well, not half, you know, but the first parts, early scenes of House of Dracula, have a Wolfman side story, and that's kind of the Wolfman story. And this also makes a wonderful small mini feature because it's about, like I said, about 10 minutes or so, and it really has a lot of good Wolfman stuff, and it tells the whole story, in a short film. All right, last but not least, this is another situation where they took a movie and they chopped it. This is The Trial of Frankenstein. No such movie as The Trial of Frankenstein. What this is the movie The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942 with Lon Chaney Jr. as the monster. And these are, like, again, earlier scenes in the movie, really, when the monster is kind of captured and taken into, I guess you could call it almost like going to court. So, yeah, that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed these. As I say, if you didn't see the other two, parts 1 and 2, just back up a little bit. Won't be too far back. And I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already.